I cannot imagine it, and this is exactly why we're doing it.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fatal Strategies. I'm calling this one episode 4.2 because we have a returning guest, Camille Giraudeau, who was also the guest on episode 4. And so what is going on with that, you might ask? Well, I did the interviews for the first 4 episodes, or what became the first 4 episodes, back in the summer of 2023. And various events sort of conspired to delay the release of those episodes. I won't get into the details, but just stuff happened, and I wasn't able to get them out in a very timely fashion. But as a result of that, and also the fact that Camille had an exceptionally busy 2024 in terms of various albums coming out and touring activities, and a trip to Norway, etc., I thought it would be good to get an update from him and sort of supplement that initial conversation, which, if you did listen to that episode, it's the sound of 2 introverts talking for the first time. Over the subsequent months, we corresponded a little bit more, and so there's a little bit more of a rhythm or rapport to this conversation, I would say. But we hear about several albums that came out in 2024 that he worked on. The Doedsmaghird album, Omniverse Consciousness, Doedsmaghird being a spin-off of Dodheimsgard, with whom Camille is currently touring as the drummer. And then there was also the Stagnant Waters release that came out in early 2024. There are some projects in the pipeline, Dreams of the Drowned, Camille's solo effort, and then a new project that he describes toward the end of the episode, Eki Aum, with Aldrahn, also formerly of Dodheimsgard, as well as Thorns and other groups. But in addition to these updates, we also, especially toward the second half, get into some more, philosophical kind of conversation about metal, avant-garde metal, experimentalism, chaos, order, tradition, creativity, and things like that. And then a brief note of clarification. About halfway through the interview, there's a reference to Trine plus Chem Design, and they are a duo that has done a whole lot of album art for various Norwegian acts. Maybe not only Norwegian acts, but certainly, everybody from Mayhem, Dark Throne to Virus, Olver, etc. Another example would be episode 2 of this very podcast series, a Fluidity album cover that I, shall we say, borrowed or appropriated for that artwork. The next episode will be a little bit different. I'm going to have a couple of guests on, and it's going to be more discussion, roundtable sort of thing. But for now, part 2, the sequel to my original interview with Camille Giraudeau.
Doedsmaghird, I believe you started it during the Black Medium Currents recordings, and then I joined in autumn 2021. I was just at the supermarket, and suddenly I was in Doedsmaghird. It was very weird.
Did he was he in the supermarket too, or did he message you?
No. I just messaged him. Oh, okay. So you're working on this. Do you want me to try on drums? He said yes, and then I went back home. I recorded, and here it was. Darkness Return. Yeah.
Okay, and because in the credits, it's you both you played drums, guitar, bass, synth, and effects, and then he is credited with vocals, lyrics, guitars, bass, synths, and effects. So
basically, he did everything except the drums, and I did everything except the vocals.
Okay.
That's how we say it. I mean, he did most of the guitars, of course. Like, it really is his thing. My guitars are mostly on endless distance, but we both tinkered with synths, orchestration, electronics, whatnot, and I did all the drums, and he did all the vocals. I didn't do any vocals. That's how we distribute it. And there's also this other guy named Olivier from Olivier Côté
All right.
from Montreal, who participated a lot in terms of ideas, riffs, and yeah. For the next one, we will split the whole new album into the three of us, basically.
It was all done over a long distance.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's also a thing which is going to change because of the live shows, the rehearsals, my own involvement in Dødheimsgard, and so we will be able to do much more music in situ.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And on those shows, I think like I saw one little clip where you were playing like a sequencer or some kind of synth.
Oh yeah.
And then but you've also played drums and I think you've also played guitar, but what with different lineups, but how is that does it just sort of vary from like one little touring jaunt to another? He has
Um,
different people available or
I think me and Yusuf, we have this common ground in terms of going with the chaos. And so if I tell him, oh, I'm going to do the synths, he will be like, okay, do it. And so I would, this is what I did in London. And then the guitar was mostly because Jonas, who is the live guitarist,
okay.
had other obligations for the few shows I did on guitar. And the drums, it was only for a Doedsmaghird song. But I might do more in the very near future, actually. But here I am every day playing Affiliate Voids, Traces of
Okay.
Eternity, Sonobliss, sweating a lot. It's very good.
Yeah, I bet. There are a lot of multi-instrumentalists in this whole orbit. It's because like I was always so confused when I would read the credits of the early Dodheimsgard albums, for example, because first of all, there were different pseudonyms, but then even when you could sort those out, it would be like, wait a second, this guy was the drummer, and now
Yeah,
he's the guitarist. This guy, it would switch, and it's
yeah,
like it seems like everybody is not. I mean, most of the people who are on say 666 International are
yeah,
like multi instrumentalists,
yeah.
and
Okay. Like for 666, I know that Carl Michael was supposed to play the guitar on it, and in the end, he played the drums. And OG Apollyon, he was playing the drums on Satanic Art, and then played the bass on 666. Things like that. It's part of the identity of 90s Dodheimsgard, I guess, and Aura Noir as well. I mean, if you can, I mean, I guess you saw videos of what Aura Noir used to be, and Carmichael and OG sort of switched between songs,
yeah.
which is insane. Like doing the guitar and then the drums and then the guitar again and then the drums again. It's
Yeah, because it's not like you're just keeping a beat on the drums. It's like, this is
yeah,
drumming is like a super. To me, it seems superhuman because I mean, I have a my drum set is taken down. It's not. I bet you know. For me, playing the drums is like doom doom tat boom doom
yeah,
tat. I mean, like I've never been able to, never tried to play double bass drum, but it's like a whole nother
yeah.
instrument.
And the very funny thing about this is also that all of those drummers from the 90s, so Yusuf, Apollyon, and Carmichael, they were all self-taught, and drums were never their primary instruments. They started drumming because the circumstances pushed them to do it, which is
Right.
very, yeah, I think it kind of merged with the DNA of this band.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I could see how like definitely the more I mean, I imagine like for you, like say that playing, say, keyboard or some other instrument gives you a different perspective on guitar or vice
Yeah,
versa. But
yeah.
for each of these instruments, especially guitar and drums, maybe others, but like there's so much practice involved in getting it to the point where you could even do that. It's like you'd have to like to play drums like that. I can't imagine being able to play extreme metal drums without having spent years locked away in a basement
Yeah.
practicing. Uh, or to get those some of those techniques are yeah, I don't know. Like for me, it just seems like you could give me a whole lifetime, and I don't think I could do that. I don't know.
Um, you have to get something out of the drumming. I think like for me, it was all about using my energy, the
Uh,
hyperactive energy, and I became a much calmer human when I started drumming a lot. And
uh,
yeah, mostly with Discord and Saxis. Discord and Saxis was my um,
okay.
yeah. I learned drumming by playing very badly Juhu and the
And
inalienate,
inalienable dreamless. Yeah.
and then it was less and less bad, and yeah. But for me, when I'm drumming, it's like it's a workout. It's sort of hygiene, I would say, and it's also very good to be able to do everything yourself. But then
Right.
we talked about it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That propose. Yeah. Yeah. But that reminds me of so Dave Witt, I don't know how
Mhm.
you pronounce the name, but Witty Wit, but that Atom Smasher, then it turned into Phantom Smasher. But listening to the Stagnant Waters, was that a reference point on
Oh
any
yeah,
of that?
it started. Stagnant Waters literally started as my Atom Phantom Smasher projects
Ah,
solo. As in,
okay,
I I programmed some very discordant Axis blast beats and put them into a beat crusher and started composing on this. And I believe the very first songs that I did were released as a split. But back then it was Stagnant Water without an S. And
oh,
then when the other guys came into the band, it got an S. But yeah, it's Stagnant Waters for me used to be Atom Phantom Smasher meets 666 International. And from there, it grew in the directions of the first album.
okay. And because when we talked last year, you were describing it to me. I didn't quite. I mean, it made sense, but I didn't quite know how it was going to come out. But it sounded like I don't know. There was a little frustration, but it's interesting how it came out because I can't think of another album. I mean, it's kind of like you have the album and then a remix, but not quite. But like
Hey, what?
it kind or maybe it is. I mean, but
No, no.
maybe he didn't think of it. That maybe Imeric didn't because it wasn't really intended as the album and the remix. It was more like two different visions for the album. Is that
Yeah, I think as this of this album as something happens as in a Schrodinger cat type of thing. So something quantum physics based, and somehow we managed to present it in a way which is readable, which is very fun. I'm extremely happy that this rift happened between us, because it gave birth to something quite unique, I think. But yeah, I believe when we talked the last time, the frustration of this rift was still there, but nowadays not anymore. Like we all made up, we all friends again. It's good.
That was in the works for a long time, though.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was insane. Like we started working on this album in 2011, and it was released in 24, so it's 13 fucking years. Very bad. But anyways, it's
yeah.
done. So,
Yes, I mean yeah, it's even the sequence is different, and then I mean, his version, Imeric's version, sounds to me more like the remix, but maybe that's because yours is first. But it also is like there's parts where the kind of, if you could say, like the main band instruments get submerged on his mixes, and then there some of the other. I mean, his version sounds more Atom Smasher than
yeah,
your version does.
yeah.
I don't know if that's
No, definitely. And that's the thing. Like my version, the rift happened because what you hear in my version, so on the vinyl, uh, was the consensus we managed to reach on those songs. So basically, he used to program drums when we were composing, and then I recorded everything on those drums, and the vocals were recorded on what I recorded on those programmed drums. So the dynamics, where the blast beats are, where they're not, etc. It was an integral part of the compositions. And the last step, which was remaining after the vocals were recorded, was just Emmerich had to re-record the drums with his drums, acoustic drums. And so I thought he was going to record exactly what he programmed, because it's like a score,
right.
like if you change, if you remove timpanis from the apex of a symphonic composition, then it's not an apex anymore. So when he sent the drums he recorded, because he did everything quite in autarcy, I would say. Like he spent 8 months, and suddenly he sent everything.
Uh,
Everything had changed. Like all the dynamics of the songs were completely different. So there was no more consensus. It was like back to square one, basically.
uh,
So this is when the rift happened. I said to him, okay, that's impossible. I don't want to spend another fucking 4 years recomposing on what you just recorded on drums. The drums he recorded were not the problem. Like they're great. He's a great drummer, but the compositions were completely different. So this is when no, we didn't decide to do this. I said, okay, you're out. I cannot do this anymore. And he said, no, I'm not out. It's fucked. We cannot do this. And I'm happy he did this. And the we met at this agreement that I would finish a version of the album which is based on what he programmed first, and he would finish wherever he wanted this album to be. And so in a way, his version is not a remix. It's just my version, which is the consensus version, but with another layer of overthinking. And so I re-recorded what he programmed with my drums, and yeah, this is basically.
And Svein Egil, was he sort of just sitting on the side watching, or was he trying to be the mediator?
Nah, he didn't want to mediate. He thought he didn't quite understand what my problem was with this new version of the album with samba rhythms instead of blast beats on some riffs, etc. Which it's fun, it's cool, it's experimental, blah 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 blah. But it's not the compositions we agreed on. You have to imagine that from 2011 to 2018, we painfully reached the consensus. So 7 years, and then it was trampled. But anyways,
Yeah.
I think now he understands better with the result, because the result is exactly this thing. Like my version is the consensus from 2018, and Emmerich's version is Emmerich's consensus.
I don't know what part of France he is from. Did you know him from in person or from?
Yeah, yeah. I'm from Normandy, and he is from central France, so it's quite a distance. Like I know it's nothing for people living in the US of A, but 700 kilometers.
Oh, I mean
So
that's a different. I mean that's like it's probably it might even be more of a difference here because you can't take a train. You had to drive or you know I guess
yeah, it
uh,
it was not easy to meet, but yeah, I met Emmerich through priapism,
okay.
which you might know, I think.
I've listened to some of it. It's definitely more. I mean, I can see how that connects to his version.
Yeah,
Um, it definitely has more kind of Naked City kind of like jump cuts or and I this is again my ignorance of different parts of France and different scenes, but like Igor, I mean, Priapism and they seem to be coming from kind of the same place musically in terms of like well, and then I knew an earlier group called Carnival and Coal that
oh
did,
yes,
yeah. So that there, and I don't know if there's would if you would say that there's something French because I definitely hear like there's a certain aspect of Mr. Bungle and some of that fast change kind of collage kind of music, but I don't know if it finds a certain kind of resonance or if it's just a coincidence that those are three groups, but they're all kind of like there's definitely more sense of humor
yeah.
and
There,
poking.
there I think there is a French touch, quote unquote, on those three bands, which is very I mean, it's distinctively French compared to, say, Stratosphere, which is also built on Mr. Bungle.
Right.
And I would qualify this French touch, this particular French touch, as the same as the Oiseau, for instance. I don't know if you know this.
No.
It was a kind of, how to say it, sort of daft, daft punk from the 90s. A kind of very particular humor that we French say it's Canal Plus humor for some reason. Maybe, I don't know. Like this tongue in cheek, chicken meets organ thing. I don't know. But anyways, yes, you said the three bands in France which were doing this: Carnival in Co, Priapisme, and Igor, and they do came from a similar kind of spirit, I guess, and from three very creative minds surrounded by good musicians. So Carnival in Coal was mostly Axel, and his own neurosis kind of stopped the band because Arno and Axel couldn't really work with each other. Igor is kind of the same. Gauthier is sort of hard to work with, from what I understood. And Priapism is Emmerich, and Emmerich's neurosis sort of ended the band as well. But they're back now. They're trying to recompose and to get past their problems, which is really great news. And yes, Igor sort of came from a close-ish place to Clermont-Ferrand, which is the town of Priapism. But then Priapism came more from the street / klezmer art, and Igor came more from bedroom, I would say.
And then, like, connecting to Dreams of the Drowned, what is the status of the new album? Because I imagine you've got so much else going on. Is it hard to work on it?
It's essentially finished in terms of instrumentation. I've had Kevin Hufnagel record a gorgeous solo on one track from Dysrhythmia.
Right.
And I've had Ben Kohler from Converge to record Stella fucking drums on another. And the last guest who is coming is Laurie Sue from Ludicra.
Right, yeah.
And when she will be done, I think the album will be finished, which is yeah.
And then kind of going down the list, there's Vul.
Well, it's the same. I have an album which is almost over, but I will finish it only when the Dreams of the Drone album will be finished as well.
Yeah. It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that is what I needed to do to actually finish the Dreams of the Drone album, because Dreams of the Drone was always plagued by my love of second wave black metal. I would say plagued as in it always took a bit too much space in what I wanted to achieve. Sorry, pardon my French. And Vul simply is second wave black metal. Like, he has absolutely no other ambition, which is great. Like doing a project with absolutely zero ambition.
Right.
And this way, I've been able to sort of evolve Dreams of the Drones beyond second wave black metal, and it's cool.
Okay. And yeah, was it? Because that kind of reminds me of what you said about the different, like, Norwegian influences. I think what you said was, and I think it's in the first part of the edited interview, that like that had some effect on like freeing you up to, I don't know, being able to work with them freed you from maybe some of that influence in your own music, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, yeah. I remember saying something like, I said to Phil from the Bemu Morty a few days ago, the new Dreams of the Drone sort of tries to kill the father, metaphorically, as in freed from Yusuf Paves and Carl Michael ID on every second. So,
Right.
and yeah, it basically, you know, when you try to compose something interesting, rehashing something which is extremely interesting, like Ved Buens Ende and Dødheimsgard and Thread, it works. It's satisfying for you. It might be satisfying for a lot of people as well, but ultimately it's nothing but a rehash, and uh, it it kind of started to feel like it has no point for me. It felt very pointless, especially after playing in Dodheimsgard, seeing Ved Buens Ende many times, etc. Something new needs to happen.
This is kind of a whole other tangent, but interesting how in, let's say, in the 2000s and into the teens, the different, let's say, non-metal type publications that would latch on to black metal really latched onto the visual aesthetic of stuff like Immortal or the corpse paint stuff, whereas you weren't really seeing the original artists continue with that aesthetic. They were going in other directions, and like the Trine plus Kim, those designs are ones that, I don't know, you could walk into an art gallery and see, imagine seeing that.
Yeah.
And that's not you talk about something that is maybe just culturally different. You would not have that in the United States, where there isn't a like, for lack of a better word, uh, higher, like high art or art gallery, uh, uh, you know, quality design and
Yeah,
metal
because
are completely opposite.
um,
They're completely different worlds. Whereas there, it seems like, or it's like Thorns. I get, he seems like his aesthetic is something that, he was as black metal as you can be, but his aesthetic now is much more like a. I would imagine that if another Thorns album comes out, it would make sense for there to be a Trine plus Kim design on the
I
album cover, and it would be completely consistent with it.
actually heard this album.
Ah, okay.
um, and it's coming soon now, like really soon. Um, but it's funny that you made this cultural differentiation, because I think in the US, people like Seldon Hunt, Aaron Turner, they sort of did the same during the 2000s for the metal scene, maybe.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
then I would then yeah, it's not exactly extreme metal. It was more like this
Hardcore. Yeah.
post metal, post hardcore. Yeah.
Yeah, and it brings in this whole, because there was an art, there's this always kind of, and I don't really know like where I fit in any of this. Like there's always kind of like a tension between, like, is this coming from the real metal scene, or is this hipsters glomming onto it, or outsiders glomming onto it and sort of using it for their own purposes. And I was just reading something yesterday that was a blog that I like, but I thought it was a kind of blah article where it's talking about Written in Waters as focusing the writer seems to be focusing on stuff that he sees as influenced by it that he doesn't like, and he's complaining about that, and
Okay.
not hearing the album itself, and kind of like seeing its influence in later stuff that he, the writer, doesn't like, as being like something that waters down metal. Or you know, you could just say like Deaf Heaven or things like that, that kind of people would look at and say this is like co-opting metal, or and putting it in the indie rock sphere. And but you know, and I understand those arguments for sure, and that kind of thing would kind of bug me. But on the other hand, it's not really realistic, or uh, when you look at the people, somebody like, you know, like if I can call him Yusuf, or Carmichael, or whomever, like they're human beings who evolve, and so it's like to expect them to just be like metal, like teenage metal people their whole career, and then if they're not doing that, then they're not true, or they're not, you know, that's completely like not, that's at odds with who the people are. You know, they're not one dimensional like stereotypes,
Well,
or caricatures. And so all these things are kind of like it's much more fluid, I think. Like, but I think those worlds are not. They seem to be much more compatible in different places in Europe, maybe Norway, than they are here, where it's like the metal world is kind of like, in a good way, but it's kind of like its own thing that's it's separate, and it has no it at its in a lot of ways, you know, like Florida death metal or whatever. I mean, it's like so at odds with any kind of art world aesthetic that it's just like a different universe. Or
yeah, I completely see what you mean. With Yusuf, uh, we qualify this as the black wizard trope, as in, you know, emperor in their teens with acne and black wizard robes on them that they bought during a Halloween sale, doing this extremely cult stuff. And then now you have those 40, 50 somethings which are so much identifying with it that they are just identifying with teenagers,
yeah,
which is sort of, you know, it's a bit goofy.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of, but it's almost like sometimes, like Facebook is constantly flooding my newsfeed with these things where it's like photos of these death metal bands from 1993, and it's like that stuff is great, but it's kind of like at a certain point it's not that different from like people who are still into Star Wars or something. It's, I mean,
Uh,
not to say like, I mean, the music itself is one thing, but it's kind of like, yeah, like expecting, or like trying to freeze time and say that like anything that came after this isn't true. I mean, the other side of it would be, and I try not to do this, is to basically say, is to only, and this is what the guy was complaining about in the Ved Buens Ende thing. It's like saying, oh, you have people who latch onto this and praise it for developing beyond metal, as if the only thing that's worth praising is the fact that they're moving away from metal. And I don't think that's it at all. I think it's just like, it's more complex than that. Or like, for you mentioned Aaron Turner, and like there was this article in the New York Times that it really stuck out for me when I read it. It was like thinking man's metal, and it was kind of it was kind of the idea was, it was talking about stuff like Yezu and Isis and
yeah,
uh Orthrealm, and a lot of things that they weren't necessarily metal, but it was kind of making it sound like you may know metal as this really dumb music, but now there are these people who are doing this stuff that's smart, and like that way of looking at it, like, I think is bad, because it like, yeah, it kind of like it brushes away the sort of foundation, as if
yeah,
that's something to be embarrassed about.
yeah,
That's another kind of extreme, and it's really kind of condescending in that way. But I think, but there's a lot of gray area, and when you have like, no pun intended, but when like gray metal, but like something like Dodheimsgard to me is kind of like it's a great example of, it's true to what it was originally, but it's not repeating itself. It's not. I think it works for me more than Ulver, because that was like that's such a different, what they're doing now is so different that it's not even really, to me, not even really connected. Whereas with the Dødheimsgard, you can see a continuation or a continuum while
Yeah.
also seeing that each step is different from what came before. And it's, yeah, it's not something that would be that it kind of would be embarrassing in a way to still be wearing spiked armbands and corpse paint
Uh,
like and doing and pretending that you were still 15 years old at when you're 45. Yeah.
yeah, but then it's all about having a toolbox, I would say. Um, in the London show for the 30th anniversary of Dodheimsgard, like we had this traditional corpse paint, played only songs from the 90s, and it all depends on
Well,
how
yeah, that's
it's.
kind of like the Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny. Like it makes sense to do it. It's like as opposed to that being the only thing. Like
Yeah,
let's say Mr. Bungle would. I mean, they wouldn't be Mr. Bungle, but if they were still only ever playing what they did on their first demo, then it would have gotten old a long time ago. But it
yeah,
kind of it's kind of that thing where it's like acknowledging that it's part of the past.
yeah,
Yeah.
in a way, yeah, and but that's the thing. Like then you still have lots and lots of chronoticon on Black Medium Currents, like actually more than in any of the other albums. And it's also being true to yourself, I guess. But then acknowledging as well that any kind of art is bound to just move with any kind of psychosocial surroundings. And like it's a very condescending way indeed saying thinking man metal, etc. What you said the article was saying. And I don't remember where I was going with this, but it makes me remember one thing actually. Before the show at Brutal Assault this year, I spent the evening with Skull,
Oh yeah.
Blooming
Basically.
from Ved Buens Ende,
Right.
and sort of trying to understand what what happened in '93 exactly. And as I was basically bombarding him with questions, he spoke of how he wanted to add a Mr. Bungle vibe to bass lines in black metal. Mr. Bungle actually influenced Ved Buens Ende.
Ah.
And it's kind of full circle in this question, because then Ved Buens Ende is sort of seen as this second wave jewel or whatever into the pandemonium with a Mexican radio cover. um, and Ved Buens Ende bass lines, and also the Ulver bass lines as a result, and Arcturus bass lines, etc., were actually influenced by our very own Bungle. And Mr. Bungle, who were always about not giving a fuck about any kind of traditions, and just doing wherever chaos led them, wherever chaos led them. So yeah, anything which, how can I say it without sounding pretentious? Like I believe that any kind of art which ignores chaos and sort of sees an order in something that chaos created in the first place is sort of negating a huge part of what they want to convey. All of black metal, all of second wave black metal was built on punk. How come that Death Heaven? Okay, I don't particularly like Death Heaven, but how come that Death Heaven is seen as such blasphemy? You know, it's
Right.
And that's the thing. Like, I think metalheads, or I would say traditionalists in every art field should care less, I would say, but then
Yeah. I think it's kind of like there's tradition and I think you need some of that, and then there's chaos and you need some of that, and it's all about like where that different ways to mix that. And I think that's, see, I never knew that about, or never even suspected that about Skull and his bass
oh, me
playing.
neither.
But
Me neither.
but yeah,
I was very
but
surprised.
but it kind of confirms I guess you could say a theory I've had, which is that, one reason like people hear a quote Mr. Bungle influence in stuff that is a lot of times like the most superficial part of it, and it tends to be annoying. And it's kind of like, oh, if you can hear a Mr. Bungle influence, a lot of times I usually run.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, my thinking was, this is like when you mentioned that to me, I was like, huh, I wouldn't have thought that. But then I was kind of thinking, I bet, this is the kind of thing where the people who it really influenced, or the good stuff that it influenced, that's people who took it and did something else with it, to the point where you don't hear the literal influence of like playing the actual sounds that they played, but more like it's more it somehow it affected them more deeply. And I think that's true with other, there are probably other musicians like that as well, where they have an influence, but it can be a superficial influence, or it can be something deeper. And if you only, what people are going to, what casual listeners are going to hear is the superficial part, and they're going to say,
Yeah.
oh, this stuff sucks. They influence all this stuff that sucks. But they might have influenced a lot of other stuff that you just have to listen more deeply and put the pieces together to hear it. And yeah.
One other example that I like is Treya Vectov
uh,
from Morbid Angel,
oh yeah.
saying that Morbid Angel is just psychedelic music, and he wishes that people heard the psychedelic aspect of Morbid Angel. And I mean, I do hear the psychedelic aspect of his solos, and for me, it's my favorite part of Morbid Angel. Like even from '86, they had this, and this guy is super goofy. I mean, he literally has a YouTube channel with Elden Ring videos and him talking to dolls and saying stuff like Libertad, Democrat, lizards. He is very special, and but then this guy also revolutionized extreme metal and created such an individual voice that it would be impossible to guess that what fueled an album like Formulas Fatal to the Flesh was him playing Doom and speaking to dolls. And that's the thing, like in metal, in any art, I would say, I imagine that some people would even kind of grin at saying that metal is art. But anyways,
Yeah. No, definitely. No.
in any kind of artistic expression, I would say it like this. There will always be people who will stop at the surface and people who will dig deeper, and then it's okay, I would say, as long as anyone can find a kind of enjoyment about it.
the Dødheimsgard cover, I was going to try to figure out how to pronounce the name, but you it's not even really a cover in this because you wrote a guitar part that sounds like I shouldn't say sounds like the really long spiraling. It's the part
Yes,
that I sampled in the trailer that like
yes,
is that to me is like the really distinctive part that really came in with Traces of Reality and like
yeah.
those spiraling riffs and it's like you wrote one of those kinds of riffs and um did
What
you
happened? Sorry.
yeah
No, do go ahead, finish your question.
well
Sorry.
I wasn't sure if I was trying to listen to the two versions side by side to hear um how much of what you wrote was quote in the original versus like whether you were writing it over some existing chord progression or whether that was a completely new part.
So this beginning comes from the segue. The riff, dun, no, 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 which is yeah, it's just supposed to be a bridge, but it always was my favorite part of the song. So I decided to satanic art it at the beginning, and that's a funny thing that you ask because in the latest shows we actually played Midnight Scoggins, and I purposely played it with a chorus on the guitar sound because for me, Chronotikonga was always this sort of Christian death, early Christian death take on black metal, and
Ah,
I don't know, like Mighty.
I see. Yeah, you mentioned Mighty Sphincter the last time, and I thought,
Yeah.
wow, I hadn't heard that out of like in association with metal.
But you know,
Yeah.
it was not something they wanted. It only happened because the amp was shitty, had
Uh,
a sort of chorus slash reverb that couldn't be turned off. I actually played last June on the Chronotikonga guitar at Aldrahn's place. It felt very nice. The guitar he
uh,
actually used for it, and that's the thing. Like this sort of post-punk accidents, it always amazed me. This unwanted thing that I perceive as the foundation of what I like in this album. It's a very strange paradox. This, you have the very verbose bass lines of Fenris
yeah.
and the very brittle, chorusy guitar sound. For me, it is post-punk goth, and
Uh,
so I purposely post-punk gothed my guitar sound on those Chronotil songs we played, Midnight Scoggins, and also Cul de Blest, which is the song which comes after.
right, right.
And yeah, it just felt very surreal just for me because here I was playing those songs that I covered. I mean, this song that I covered, I'm sorry, but playing it the way I hear it and not the way they intended it to be, but it sort of came out as this when you see it in the broader musical paradigm. They just didn't listen to post-punk at all, as far as I know,
Uh,
or just in a kind of superficial way, like maybe a bit of The Cure or whatever. But
okay.
yeah, Midnight Skogen Sotekirne, the Dreams of the Drone version, I did try to bring this vibe as well. But actually, this whole fucking album came from this paradox thing because I saw so in 2012 I got extremely burnt out with the album I was doing for Dreams of the Drone, which I abandoned. And then in 2013 I saw Dødheimsgard with Aldrahn on vocals. He just came back in the band, It was very.
Right.
It wasn't advertised. It felt very powerful. And Bjorn, so Aldrahn, I told him about this because for me it was like one of the best shows I've seen in my entire life. And he was like, no, this show sucked. My voice was fucked. I didn't manage my voice on this tour, etc. And it's true that like his voice was mostly clean, like he sung most of the songs instead of screaming. And
Yeah.
this is what blew my mind when I saw the Kronetilkonga Monumental Possession songs played live this very day, because they were played with this accidental post-punk flavor, you know, like he didn't want to sing this way. And this is what triggered me to do Dreams of the Drone again and do what I did on Dreams of the Drone 1, which is this post-punk, non-accidental post-punk take on Chronotic Kong.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I like it's definitely a different register of vocals than I mean there are definitely just distinctive different types of clean singing that have worked in quote black metal that but it seems like there has been it's almost like that's unexplored or underexplored when you have something like between Bergtot and what
Yeah,
and later Arcturus and Solefald and different uh there's ways to do it that don't mean singing like Bruce Dickinson or something. Like there's lots of different pathways and
yeah,
yeah, that's kind of what I hear on that and a little bit on the Void album as well. Just kind of like
oh yeah,
there's lots of room for uh yeah, like I didn't know anything about that on Aldrahn. I've never really heard him sing clean.
yeah.
Uh uh
Uh, I mean, you sort of did on 666 International and also Chronet, like, but sort of like it would be clean. It would be more Paul Diano than Bruce Dickinson. Uh,
okay. Okay. I'd have to go back and kind of because I guess maybe I attributed that to Vikotnik or something when I would hear those parts.
yeah,
But I'm glad to hear that you met him because I was thinking riffs. I don't know what kind of we don't have to discuss this on for public consumption, but like what since he's not performing with them and with the Dødheimsgard and
in Aldrahn. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I was wondering if he might see you as like he's gone over to the other side or
No. I mean, so this is actually something we discussed because we have our project, which I actually worked on today, and at some point I sort of took the temperature on how I could reconcile Aldrahn and Yusuf, and after deep talking with both of them, I think it won't happen, and it's fine. And I'm able to explore the two different sides of 66 International. On one side with Doedsmaghird and Dodheimsgard, and on the other side with Aldrahn. Our project Eki Aum is really advancing. I'm actually putting together the whole structure of the album those days, and
ah, I
it's
didn't
a,
even know about that.
oh, okay, I didn't tell you. So it's Eki Aum is an insane fucking thing. Um, Bjorn wants to rap mostly, and me, I mostly want to channel what what wasn't channeled through 666 International. But I sort of hear it could have been like the dub, the industrial, the goth as well. Oh, and yeah, so we sort of meet um, in this middle ground between his will to rap and my will to goth, I would say. Okay, it's done. And anyways, we have one track with some stuff made by Snorri from Thorns.
Okay.
Another track with a very, very insane French drummer. I would say he's the French Marc Gillian, the drummer from the latest Bowie era. And I don't know, it's the most crazy fucking experimental thing I ever did. There's a shitload of Mr. Bungle, which doesn't sound like Mr. Bungle. There is lots of Scorn, lots of also some extremely weird neo folk. Like if you can imagine neo folk with hip hop, I cannot imagine it, and this is exactly why we're doing it. Like when you cannot imagine something, it means it's so hard to conceive it's going to sound interesting at the very least. And yeah,
How do you spell it? Is it
Eki Aum? It's Eki, and then Aum.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Homm, like man in French.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Okay. Well,
yeah,
I read how he was I think it was an interview on avantgardemetal.com where he was Aldrahn was saying how he was into certain kind of trance
oh yeah,
music and
psytrance and goa trance.
okay, yeah.
And we also have some psytrance and goa trance with hip hop, which is weird. And yeah, he very very interesting guy, and it's a real pleasure to collaborate, even though he might not say it himself, because I take a very long time to finish anything, but he's patient.
Yeah, the word that always comes to mind when I think about him is Shakespearean. I don't know, but
Oh yeah,
also the monologue, the Tears in the Rain monologue from Blade Runner.
yeah.
There's a certain dramatic quality to what he does that is it's unique. Yeah, it's there's nobody else has even tried to do that kind of
I mean, Devil Doll, I would say,
oh right. Yep,
and
that's true. That's true.
also Coil.
Ah, okay. Devil Doll
Uh,
does make sense. Yeah.
yeah, but then it's true that yeah, I guess one could say that you have Aldrahn, Mr. Doctor, and John Balance, and they are a school of vocals by themselves, I guess.
Right. Yeah, not for the faint of. I mean, you really have to. You have to almost like transform. It's like turning into a werewolf or something to deliver the vocals the way he delivers them. There's so much force of personality in it that it's like uh, on Umbra Omega, especially
Yeah.
even more, I think, than 666 International. I think that's like a pinnacle of his style because you just can't imagine. Well, now and then I listened to Black Medium Current, and there's a part of it where I thought, did he get him to come back? And it's just that I had to double check, and I guess maybe he had been around it so much that he is able to that
um,
to
I think it's actually the other way around, as in
ah
Aumbra Omega. Uh, okay, it's a touchy subject, but I know that Yusuf was supposed to do the vocals at the beginning, and
Ah,
but then in 2013, right for the tour that I was speaking of, Aldrahn came back, and in the end, he did the vocals on Omega, but mostly directed by Yusuf, like
ah.
and there is the thing like it's true that it's a very good vocal performance, but I think the pinnacle of Aldrahn will, at least for me, remain 666, mostly because he channeled truly himself, like he was
Uh,
absolutely free as fuck. Whereas in Aum Omega, it is sort of constrained in what became black medium currents,
uh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, see that my this is why it's good to check. I kind of think I'd use my imagination or kind of make an educated guess. Is he also on the new Thorns?
Yes.
Okay.
And which is also okay, this is a sort of spoiler,
Confident. Uh,
but it's also interesting in the very conversation we're having, because in the new Thorns, you will see that there are three singers, so Bjorn, Snorri, and Sigurd, Satyr from Satyricon,
okay.
and they will all sound the same,
Uh,
and which is very strange. Um, the new Thorns is like an absolute destruction of ego. Bjorn, Aldrahn doesn't sound like Aldrahn. Snorri doesn't sound like Snorri. You won't find the obvious things that Thorns usually is. Pardon my French.
well, and I guess it usually is based. It's pretty much one album. I mean, because the early stuff is so different from
Yeah.
the album, and then the EP with the Emperor thing. I always thought, yeah, I thought it was such a drop off from Aldrahn to Satyr. So to I don't know. I just maybe it's my preference, but I never really got into Satyricon. That's for
Uh,
I.
um, if you look at all Satyricon since 97, which was the Megiddo EP,
Right.
uh, Thorns was always, for me, Satyricon sort of became what Thorns could have been if Thorns became a full band. Um, I see Satyr as this kind of fucking hell. Can I say this? Okay, I will say it. He's like this extremely functional man,
Yeah. That's
like
what I thought.
very functional, and he sort of took the ideas from Snorri, which who's more tormented.
Yeah.
And,
That's exactly the impression I got in listening to it. It's like because I would come across that in the San Francisco music scene that I was looking into. There were a lot of really tortured people who didn't get very far in
yeah,
quote the music business. But then there would be, I mean, Jello Biafra would be one who is very functional,
yeah,
relatively speaking, and could kind of take these ideas and run with them. And Henry Rollins would be another one where he's well known because mostly because he's functional.
oh yeah,
Yeah, not because
he's
he
functional.
it and compared to again compared to all these other people, and it's like
Yeah.
the real creative geniuses are don't have that quality.
Uh,
But I
this
could
Black Flag versus Poison ID thing.
or even the vocalists within Black Flag, some of the others who would have been better, but Yeah, yeah. It's like that's what the total impression I would get from Satyricon. It's like they are kind of picking up on, and you give them credit for putting out these other albums. The Moonfog trilogy and stuff. That they put out at that time. So give them credit for that. But it
Yeah,
always felt like they were the least inspired and the most kind of like taking other, not, sculpting other
ah,
people's ideas, taking other people's ideas and making them a little more audience friendly.
maybe, but then I don't know. Like for me, a song, especially on Rebel Extravaganza, for me, there are extremely great things which Satie made, and he continues doing it. Like on the 2013 album, there is this track which is basically a channeling of Ved Buens Ende through System of a Down. I would say it like this. It's very, very strange. And yeah, I suppose there is some artistic prowess also in this functionality of some people who manage to sort of uh, take ideas maybe from others, but then put them into fruition. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Well,
wish I
that's John's that's John Zorn.
yeah,
It's kind of Mike Patton, kind of Mike Patton.
yeah, yeah, him too.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm
It's
not
interesting.
knocking it. It's not to knock them for it. It's just kind of like it's just there's just different ways people are made.
Yeah,
I'm not that functional myself.
yeah. I mean,
Everything's a struggle.
um, and there's a thing like it's an interesting word you said struggle because functional people their struggles are different. They struggle with how to be creative, for instance, whereas the people they will take from struggle they don't struggle to be creative. They struggle to take this chaos of creation into order, which is actually releasable when it comes to music. And so it's a really great match, when someone functional starts to help someone less functional and they nourish each other. It's sort of the same actually in my personal life, like with my girlfriend. I would say I'm the creative one, and she is sort of, I mean, she functions much better in terms of life skills in general. And we sort of balance each other. We found a very funny metaphor about this in uh, the Hinduist pantheon, but I cannot remember it. But anyways, I sort of take her in the clouds, and she sort of anchors me, and we meet in the middle. And I would say it's the same for Satir and Snorri, or I don't know, someone like Mike Patton with Trace Prince.
Right.
I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
in friendship in general, because this is where it is. Like people actually help each other and in a non-judgmental way, and this is what actually makes something fruitful, I suppose.